مرسوريوس رابو فيلكسينوس طبيبو مريقب كنور الروح وردو محر لويو مرقولة لوي والنس دارو موشي باركيفو أو برصابوني أو برصالبي وميخو يرابو مرقرب رويوس نروني ولد والمونايدو
شم آب وابر روح وقديش وحاذا الله الشرير آمين أبوند بشماية وند قاداش شما أختي تابل كوثاقنا وصبي ونوقعك بشماية So questions from the audience? Can we have more detail in Severus' role in Christology and his influence over the church? So Saint Severus of Antioch, he was patriarch from 512 to 538. From 512 to 518, he was in Antioch. After 518, he was in exile. He has a huge role because he synthesizes all the fathers. He's like the seal of the fathers. He's the accumulation of all of them. He's like a spiritual student of the Cappadocian fathers. So Gregory the theologian, Basil of Caesarea, Gregory of Nyssa. And himself, he's from the same general area originally. So he has a very big influence over the Christology because he's the greatest apologist of it in that time, and the opposing side had no real answer to him, especially during his lifetime. He doesn't say anything that is not would contradict Cyril or the Cappadocian fathers, the Alexandrian fathers or the Cappadocian fathers. They like sometimes to say, you'll hear this, even from Copts you might hear sometimes they say things like, Severus speaks, as like a Cappadocian, and Cyril speaks as an Alexandrian. No, it's the same. The Cappadocians and the Alexandrians, they speak the same way. There's no real difference. Severus maintains that. If you read his writings and you read Cyril and you read the Cappadocians, you read Athanasius, you're not going to see anything in the way they're using the terms and the definitions of the terms. You won't see anything different. But yeah, we call him in the diptych, I think we call him the meadow full of flowers, right? He's beautiful to read. And even the enemies of Severus, like, the Chalcedonians, when they read him, they have to respect him from how eloquent he speaks. They read him and he reads very well to them, and they respect him because they realize he's brilliant. Multiple Chalcedonians, when they're talking to me, they slip up and they say Saint Severus because of how beautiful his writings are. This is why we call him the crown of the Syrioye, right? The crown of our people. And he wasn't even ethnically us. I think I covered the Severus question, right? What do you guys think?
Would you like to just add one of his examples, strong examples?
Sure, we'll do the walking of the water.
Yes, please.
Yeah, the walking of the water, he says, and it's funny because I've heard Chalcedonians use the example against the Assyrian Church of the East, but they don't credit him with it. So they'll use his example against the Church of the East, and they don't say Severus said it. So he says, here, I have the quote. Let me read it to you. Okay. How will anyone divide walking on the water? To run upon the sea is foreign to the human nature, but it is not proper to the divine nature to use bodily feet. Therefore, that action is of the incarnate Word, to whom belongs at the same time divine character and human indivisibly. So the one incarnate nature of the Word, or the one nature of the word incarnate, however you want to translate the term. I used it 2 days ago. Today's Wednesday, 3 days ago, 4 days ago, I used it. I was talking to a Chaldean, and they said, well, which nature, if he's only one nature, which nature is it? Can't be, it's either divine or it's human, if it's just one. So I'm okay. So when he's walking on the water, which nature is that? They said divine. I said, divine has feet? They said, okay, human. I said, human can walk on water? It's getting frustrated, right? It's the one incarnate nature of the word. Because when we're saying nature, the Western Chalcedonians, and although this person was Chaldean, they're clearly influenced by the Western way of thinking regarding the word nature. They are thinking about ousia, essence, the general, the common thing. This is not how we have ever traditionally used the term in Christology. Us, the Assyrian Church of the East, from which the Chaldeans come, and the Proto-Chalcedonians. When we're talking about nature, we're talking about the knoma. So we're saying that he is one knoma from the two. And what is a knoma again? A hypostasis, what is that? It's the particularization or a particular example, an individuation of the ousia, of the general, of the essence. So which one walked on the water? We're not talking about essences. We're not saying how many essences he is. But he's a particular member of both common essences. This one particular member, he's one particular member of both, right? So this one particular, he's the one who walked on the water. He is a member of humanity and he's a member of divinity. He walked on the water. So there isn't this concept for us of you'll notice if you use the word nature with Westerners, they will always be confused because they are equating the word nature with essence. So then in the Trinity, we say the three hypostases in the Trinity, or three knomi, they have one kiono or kiana, or one ousia for them. There are three particulars of that general. Yeah? All of us here, we are particulars of a general essence. But we're not talking about personhood. There is also the personhood of that. So we are knome and we are farsufe, or parsope, depending on the dialect. Any questions about this?
So how does that make us different than the Trinity?
Well, it's not different in the Trinity. It's that they are making 4 terms into 2 terms. We are keeping them 4, like the original way. We're not making them the same. So for the Westerners, you'll see a common mistake they do is they will equate hypostasis and prosopon. They'll make them the same. And they'll make phusis and ousia, also they'll make them the same. So the 4 terms have become 2 terms for them. They just have synonyms of the same meaning. For us, each word has a definition, and we keep it like that. We don't mix the terms up. Okay? So phusis, you'll see, usually is like a placeholder of another term. So like for the Trinity, we say it's one phusis, and we say one ousia. But in Christology, what we're doing is the hypostasis. So you'll see Cyril, he'll use hypostasis and phusis interchangeably sometimes, but he won't use ousia like that. So when he doesn't use ousia Christologically, he doesn't say Christ is one ousia. He doesn't say Christ is from two ousia. We don't use ousia in the Christological context. This is for Trinity. Yeah, and the Church of the East is the same way. Why? Because for them, the ousia is the bigger category, and the hypostasis is the smaller one. So you can't have something that is one hypostasis, even for the Church of the East. You can't have something that's one hypostasis but two ousia. It doesn't work that way. The words don't work that way in Syriac or Greek or anything. One of their patriarchs in the time of Isaac of Nineveh, he said, we don't know what to do with the Council of Chalcedon. He said, no one's ever spoken like this before. We don't know to count them with the heretics, and we can't count them with the Orthodox either. Because it's never been heard of that a single knoma can have multiple kiane in it. He's like, the kiana can have multiple knome, like the Trinity. But you can't have a knoma with multiple kiane. It doesn't work like that. That's not how the words work. And each knoma has a kiana, right? Any other questions about this? No? Okay. Next question. Just something I've heard before about happens the Council of the Constantinople 536 and then 553. What happened at both? Why did both occur so close to one another? Okay. So the Council of 536 was supposed to be the fifth ecumenical council for the Chalcedonian. At the time it happened, it was thought of as the fifth ecumenical council. It was originally intended by Justinian to be a reconciliation council because Anthimus of Constantinople entered into communion with Severus, who was there. But Pope Agapetus of Rome surprised everybody by appearing, presided over the council, and excommunicated Severus and Anthimus. And Severus was condemned, and his writings were to be burned. This is why we don't have anything in Greek from Severus, barely anything left in Greek. And he put in Minas to replace Anthimus, Agapetus did. And he made a new rule for the Church of Constantinople that any Patriarch of Constantinople had to be pre-approved by Rome. Okay? So it defeated the purpose of what Justinian intended the council to be, but it became policy. So Justinian had to enforce it. He tried again for a reconciliation council in 553. This, in history later, replaces 536 as the fifth ecumenical council. Personally, if I was a Roman Catholic, I would reject 553 and still be accepting 536. It doesn't make sense to not do that, in my opinion, because the Pope Vigilius of Rome at that time in 553, Justinian arrested him and he literally forced him to sign on 553. So Vigilius was against the council initially. He said, no, I will not condemn the 3 chapters. What are the 3 chapters? The letter of Ibas to Mari, the writings of Theodoret of Cyrus, and Theodore of Mopsuestia. Vigilius said, I won't condemn them. The Latin West didn't want to condemn them because they thought by condemning them, they're contradicting Chalcedon, which they're right. So Vigilius didn't want to sign. Justinian forced him to sign. He was actually even excommunicated by the East until he signed. The Eastern Chalcedonians, that is. So he was forced to sign, and then they condemned the 3 chapters there in 553, which is a very dishonest council because it makes it sound like Ibas didn't write his letter that we all know he wrote. And then they make the letter heretical, which Chalcedon said is orthodox. So that's a contradiction. They've already started, from the early 530s we know, they were already starting to remove things from the minutes of Chalcedon, showing that they accepted the letter of Ibas as orthodox at Chalcedon. They're changing the minutes. So in 553, they keep trying to do that. They don't condemn Ibas's person and Theodoret's person because they don't want to contradict Chalcedon. So they just condemn their writings, which is crazy, because how do you say Theodoret is blessed at your 7th council? He's blessed, but you can't read any of his writings? It doesn't make sense. Like, it's disrespectful to your intellect sometimes, the things that they do, the revisionism there. And Theodore of Mopsuestia, and that probably ends any potential of communion between them and the Church of the East because of the condemnation of Theodore. He's the only saint at that time. In 553, he's the only one that the Church of the East is venerating that they condemn. The Church of the East, it's not clear if they had already added Nestorius by this point. It was probably later that they add him. So far it's just Theodore that is the guy, and so for them to condemn Theodore at that council makes reconciliation with the Church of the East not possible anymore. So again, the reason they did this council is to reconcile us. Dioscoros isn't mentioned in it. Severus isn't mentioned in it on purpose. But the Tome of Leo is, and Chalcedon is. Obviously, we saw very clearly through that council and we didn't care about it. Plus, our big guys were already reposed by that point. But that's why they happened so close to each other. Okay. Marmarun lived 4th to 5th century. Was that when the Maronite church became its own thing and separate from our church, or much after? No. Marmarun was a saint for all of us. He's a Syriac Orthodox saint. So they don't break away until I think, and they would also agree with this, is John Marun. What is that, 6th century or so, something like this. So in the time of the Acacian Schism, so-called, where there's the Henoticon, right? And all the Eastern churches sign on the Henoticon and we're in communion. They're part of the church. They continue very late even to venerate Saint Severus, to venerate Barsoma, Mar Barsoma of Samosata, and others. They still venerate Jacob of Saruj because they like to think he was a Diophysite, but this is just crazy. Everybody knows. He wrote poetry against the Tome of Leo in the Council of Chalcedon. Anyway, I think in their hearts, they know. Denial's a river in Egypt. So, and the whole thing about Severus killing their monks is a fake story. It never happened. More Mikhail Rabo talks about this. So, they're not independent from us until after the Henoticon, after it ends. So like 518 it ends, and even after that it's like inconsistent. There's like a back and forth a little bit. And then they go into, by the late 6th century, or sorry, by the 7th century. By the 7th century, the back and forth kind of ends, where they they stabilize on two natures, but they start to say one will, because it's a vestige of their previous orthodoxy. So they're still saying one will. They're not, it's not clear whether they are saying like us, if it's a composite will, or if it's just a simple, it's not clear. But I would guess they were saying composite. And so here's the thing. The Fifth Council, which we just talked about, 553, explicitly says one will. Their council says one will. And then when it's saying two wills at the Sixth Council, contradicting the Fifth, I don't blame the Maronites for being confused by saying we want to keep the faith of the Fifth Council, saying one will. So now, by saying two wills, well, why should we say two wills if Pope Vigilius of Rome at the Fifth Council said one will? So are we going to follow the Pope of Rome in the Fifth Council, or are we going to follow the Sixth Council? And it's just because everything's contradicting and confusing and mixing now, and they need lawyers to figure out what's consistent and what's not, because of what they did to the church in their council. So the Maronites kind of stay like this, so they establish their own line of patriarchs in their own area, in the mountain, besides the new one that Justin created in 518 for the Melkites, and also the original line from Saint Severus to his successors. So now there's three lines, and they stay this way. The Crusaders come. This is like 500 years, 600 years later. The Crusaders come from the west, and the Maronites enter into communion with Rome after a time where people forgot about a communion with Rome in the east, in that part of the east, not like Greece and Constantinople, but more east than them. And the Crusaders themselves were surprised to find that the Maronites were there. So the Maronites entered in, and today they will try to say, sometimes if they're not honest, they will try to say, we always believed in two wills and we were always in communion with Rome. Let's not kid ourselves, right? They actually established the Syriac Catholics later, like in the late 18th century. The Maronites helped with the establishment of the Syriac Catholic Church, which is pretty much the same thing as them. There's a patriarch, a Syriac Catholic patriarch, who wrote a book that has a bunch of Syriac forgeries regarding the role of the papacy in the Syriac tradition, and none of the quotes are authentic. There is a section of quotes that are authentic regarding Petrine primacy in the Syriac tradition, which we all agree with, but that being exclusive to Rome is not authentic. So I think I covered the Maronite question too. Okay. Any other questions you guys have?
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about, so in the council 553 is when the Pope of Rome kind of shows up out of nowhere, like
536.
536 shows up, and he presides. Is that because of jurisdictional kind of like region, kind of he's close by? Or
no
is he
one
able
expected
to-
it. It was just out of nowhere. It's never happened before. Just blue moon situation.
Well, say it happens anywhere else, like would he like automatically kind of, just because he's the Pope of Rome, would he be able to preside? Like, is that just...
If it happened in Egypt, no. If it happened in Constantinople where the emperor is and the emperor cares about what the Pope of Rome is saying, then yeah, because the emperor is giving him that يعني قيمة, right? But the Egyptians wouldn't have cared
About
if it was the Pope of Rome. He's not important to them. But because the emperor cares about Italy and the political state of Italy, so they ijamle, Yeah.
gotcha. If he didn't show up, then who would preside?
It was set up for Anthimus himself to preside because he was patriarch there. It was set up that way. It was set up for Anthimus to preside. Like that was the intention going into the council, that Anthimus was going to preside, and he entered in with Severus into communion, and then they reunite the church. That was the idea here. Yeah, that was the plan. Actually, even the emperor before, 2 emperors before, so Emperor Anastasius, he wanted to make Severus Patriarch of Constantinople. Before he made him Patriarch of Antioch, he wanted him to be Patriarch of Constantinople. But I think Philoxenus had a role in getting him in Antioch instead. Yeah. Any other questions?
You kind of touched on Christology a little bit, kind of the beginning, and the quote by Saint Ignatius, Saint Severus, that you mentioned about how you can't divide the water and the water. I watched your recent stream with Agan and
Deacon
Maronite. Yeah. And I think one of them, maybe Agan, he said like, there's not one point where you can divide. It's not just walking on water. It's like, at any point, he's being born in the manger, and the Magi is coming and worshiping him and everything and giving him glory. Like at any certain point, he's in the desert being tried, like and the angels kind of like ministering and serving.
Of
him.
course.
So it's
that's the point of the incarnation, is that every moment of life, of human life, he was God at the same time. So God did everything and said everything in that to save Adam. So in every moment he was God-man in everything he did. St. Ephraim says he put on Adam and leaped back into paradise. So in order to restore fallen humanity, he needed to put it on. Yeah, and that's how he does it. It can't be that there are 2 doers or 2 actors or 2 modes of action, because that would defeat the point of the incarnation. How does he redeem humanity? How do I have salvation and you have salvation if God didn't truly become man and put him on, so that he can suffer in the flesh, and he can be thirsty, and he can be hungry, and all of these things that you and I have? That's only possible if God becomes man. If God unites to a man, then God isn't doing it. The man is doing it. It doesn't do anything for us. Yeah.
I want you to maybe reflect a little bit on what went wrong with Rome. Like in Nicaea, you say the first, the only, I guess, for us, council, Nicaea, the ranking of the patrician is Rome, Alexandria, Antioch. Like, they had like the first row, like rank and honor, and with the whole maybe glory kind of like they got to flew too close to the sun, and then the papal infallibility, whatever, all that stuff with the ex cathedra by Leo, wanting his tomb being that, like, it's missed opportunity, obviously. Like, you want that to be a great see and all that, like, what went wrong, and obviously when it happened, the Holy Spirit, decided that ranking, and like what happened? Like why did it happen that way? How come they went away and then they come back?
Nicaea isn't explicit in intention of ranking. It's not saying we're ranking them first because they're greater. It doesn't say that. So as far as the order of mention, they're mentioned first. But it doesn't say they're mentioned first because something special. It just mentions them first. So what is Nicaea? Nicaea is after Christianity becomes legal. It doesn't become the official religion yet, but it becomes legal. Constantine calls it, he's a Christian, okay? So, and what is the point? Constantine himself is from Rome. So what is the point? The point is, this is becoming imperial now. What's the capital of the empire in this year? Rome is the capital. It's not Constantinople yet. Rome is the capital. So Rome has this position. Rome is mentioned first because this is an imperial council. This is not about in terms of, it's okay to say they have primacy of honor. We don't have a problem with that. But it's not about they have a special office that the others don't have. No. Rome has this primacy, is the capital of the empire. It's the most important city that's mentioned. Alexandria is mentioned second. Why? Why is it? If it had something to do with Peter, if Peter is the reason why they're mentioning them in this order, Antioch wouldn't be third, right? Who's greater, Peter or Mark? Okay, so yeah, okay. So Alexandria is mentioned second. Even Alexandria is a Petrine see, don't get me wrong, but via Mark, they kind of need a sub here. So it's mentioned second because of its importance for the empire. It's the breadbasket of the entire Roman Empire. Alexandria is the most important city and province probably in the entire empire. So, and then Antioch, also very important, not as important as the other two, extremely important still, politically speaking. But Peter established that before all of them. And that's the first see in terms of history. That's where Christians were first called Christians. If it had anything to do with a divine ordinance, then Antioch would have been first. So it's not about that. Nicaea is listing them in an order that is imperial, not in an order that is, divinely, some spiritual indication of anything. And what was the second part of what you said? How Leo?
I guess addressing the first part kind of maybe addresses the second, kind of knocks off the second a little bit, but I don't know. It's just they went off the railroad kind of in a big way where they haven't recovered.
Yeah, there's
too much pride, I guess. I don't know.
There was a few times in history. Agin's coming out with the video, actually, coming out soon about the papacy and the history of the papacy. And I also encourage reading Eric Ibarra's book on it, Craig Trulia's book on it. Both are good. But Agin's video is going to be good too. So there are times in their history where they are, the popes are doing something that's outside of their ability to do. And then they have to be reminded, you can't do that. For example, Pope Victor of Rome is a famous situation. Pope Victor wanted to excommunicate all of the churches in Asia Minor, which is the west coast of Turkey today, because they were celebrating Easter not on a Sunday, but on whatever day it landed on, according to the apostolic tradition they received from John, the apostle. And they really did receive it from him. He wanted to excommunicate all of them for this. St. Irenaeus and other bishops stopped him. They told him, you can't do that. You can't excommunicate them for this. Even your predecessors knew that they were doing this, and they were in communion with them, Adi.
That's not very Catholic.
Yeah. But eventually, they did have to conform. They conformed at Nicaea. The Roman Catholic state of the see, Pope Victor was right. But that's not the point. The point is there was an agreement for them to conform, according to them wanting to, not because either you do this or we're excommunicating you. They were called quattrodecimans, and then I think there were some other issues that they eventually started to have by that point where they became problematic with other things. But them with the Easter date wasn't a problem. It shouldn't have been a problem. Another example is Pope Stephen of Rome. He didn't believe in rebaptism. He didn't want to rebaptize the heretics. So Cyprian of Carthage, Saint Cyprian of Carthage was against him. Pope Dionysius of Alexandria, I think it was the Pope there at the time, he was against him too. And so he didn't win out in the East. In the West, sure, but in the East he didn't. So you have examples, even before Leo, of where they try overreaching sometimes. So the Catholics will tell us, well, you see, why are they doing that if they don't think that they can? That's not an indication. I mean, if they're doing something and the other bishops are telling them you can't do it, what is it, a secret and the other bishops don't know? And if it's not a secret and they know, then why are they telling them that they can't if they can? That means they can't do it. So by the time Leo becomes Pope, he tells, when Dioscoros becomes Pope in Alexandria, Leo tells Dioscoros when and when not to ordain priests. There's, again, an overreach here. Sometimes they like to point out Saint Celestine, the Pope before Leo, or even a few before Leo. So when he tells Nestorius that he has 10 days to recant, or he's excommunicated from the Catholic Church, they say, see, look, here's the Pope of Rome telling another patriarch of the church that he has 10 days to recant, or he's excommunicated from the whole church, the whole universal church. And then we just answer and say, Celestine is saying on the authority of my see and the See of Alexandria. Both sees.
That's interesting. There was no council involved in this decision making.
Yeah, but it's Alexandria and Rome, two Petrine sees, telling Constantinople this. It's not just Rome. Yeah.
If two gather.
Huh?
If 2 or 3 gather.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 of them.
And Constantinople was relatively still a new patriarchate. It wasn't thought of in the same stature as, say, Rome, Alexandria, Antioch. Antioch obviously had Constantinople's back at that time, but the other two didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought there was some divinely inspired order, reason to the ranking. There's a doxology, I read from an article by Deacon Severus Michael or something about that, and it mentions he actually kind of criticized it a little bit, but it's in their kind of liturgics or whatever. It mentions the Petrine sees in that order. But
even for us, we have it in the Shemo, where we'll say Rome, Alexandria, Antioch.
But for us, are we saying that just because it was said in the council, not because it matters in a spiritual sense?
If you look at the old diptychs of the liturgies from in the early church before Nicaea, you'll see that the order that they're naming the patriarchs, it's not the order of Nicaea. It's the order according to locality. So like what we do where we say Ephraim first, before we say Tawadros,
Sure.
right? Because he's our patriarch. So this is how the early church was. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Whereas say the Uniates, like the Chaldeans or something, they will say Pope Leo the 14th before they say Mar Luis Sacco.
Because he's lower for them, and like he, submits.
Yeah,
to them.
they have sometimes يعني
He's not His Holiness. He's His
صبري كلش يقل وياهم, because sometimes they'll say, yeah, he's a pope and he's a patriarch. It's the same word.
Yeah.
Pope is the Latin, patriarch is the Greek. The Coptic pope was called pope before any other bishop in the world was ever called pope. The word pope was first used for Alexandria before anybody. It's the same word.
So the proper term for the Mad Luis is cardinal.
They think it's an elevation. They think he got promoted to cardinal.
But he's not the patriarch.
He's their patriarch, but they على أساس يترقى.
Okay, I mean, so he's equal to Pope of Rome in that sense, in the language.
So the pope is higher than the cardinals.
If he was called patriarch.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he's patriarch, Baba.
Yeah.
Pope Baba.
Oh,
You know what I
I
mean?
get it. Yeah, I get it. Okay. Yeah, I know. What are you going to do with these guys?
So even before, they go back to Church of the East, like the honorific wasn't, His Eminence, right? Like probably it was His Holiness or something.
Who?
And then for the Chaldeans, you're saying, no, you said Sako. You're talking about
Yeah, Chaldeans.
the Chaldeans. His Eminence, right? They call him now not His Holiness.
No, they call him his beatitude.
Beatitude, which is not the same level as His Holiness.
Right. It's like our Indian Mafrayano, yeah.
Yeah.
His beatitude.
So they went down, obviously, when they.
So to be fair, on this point, that's an anachronistic way of looking at it. Because yes, now the Church of the East Patriarch is called His Holiness. Even His Holiness Ephraim II, when he was talking to the Gaboharino Indians, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago or so, in one of the letters he called them His Holiness, even to him. But for the Church of the East back then, the highest title was His Beatitude. Yeah. But now it would be His Holiness. Yeah. For the Eastern Orthodox patriarchs, all of them, except for Constantinople, they're all your beatitude, all of them. The Constantinople one is His All Holiness. They added another word in it. Yeah, but the highest thing is Your Holiness, and that is you only find that for Rome, Alexandria, Antioch, and now the Church of the East. Nobody else.
So like the what's it called? Armenians and stuff. Well, Armenians they have Catholicos, right? And
Yeah.
stuff. They have two of them. I don't know what that is about, honestly, but like what's the title for that? And
I mean, last I checked, it was his beatitude, but maybe they upgraded it now. I don't know.
and like the people like the Habasha, like the
Yeah, same.
Oh, same.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like, I don't know if it got upgraded now. It was these guys, they were all your beatitude.
Even after
After autocephaly, yeah, even after, yeah. I think it took them. I want to say like within the last 15 years or so, where they start to kind of maybe change, if they changed it. As far as I know, it's still his beatitude, but I don't know. Maybe it's His Holiness now, and I'm unaware. Yeah. So the three patroncies are His Holiness, and the Assyrian Church of the East is His Holiness. Yeah. I know for the Indian liturgy, it used to say in the diptychs, our Patriarch, His Holiness Moran Mor Ignatius Ephraim II, and they would name their Catholicos after His Beatitude so-and-so. I don't know now, today, if it's still His Beatitude so-and-so, or if they now change it to also His. I don't think they changed it to His Holiness. I don't think they did. So I'm not sure. Oh, it's the three Petrine sees, the Church of the East, and Constantinople. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But now everybody's like, see, after the schism with Russia in 2018 and Constantinople, I don't know if Russia upgraded the title for themselves. I don't know what's going on. I can't keep track of these guys. Yeah. Any other questions?
We're at like 46 minutes.
ما عندكم أسئلة بعد؟ أوكي. خلاص.
مرسي وريوس رابو فيلكسينوس طبيبو مويا قبك نور الروح وردو ما حرر لويو مور قولة لوي والنس دارو موشي باركيفو أو برصابوني أو برصالبي وميخو